breaking news from Real America's Voice.
Breaking news, as we just reported, President Trump announcing that in all likelihood they have a suspect. That wasn't actually what he said. He didn't say the likelihood. We're going to play the clip that they have a suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination. And the new information, according to President Trump, who was hedging it a little bit because from a legal perspective, wanted to not get ahead of certain things here and didn't want to get anybody in legal trouble. But apparently it had to do with the father, the suspect's father and the suspect's minister, who in essence turned him in to police, allegedly, that's in all caps. Let's listen to the clip.
Any updates on the suspect?
Yeah. Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued, and we all don't get sued, and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant that was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, it's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But yeah, I think we're in great shape. The father went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you, based on what I'm hearing, they'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in. As I'm walking in, they said, looking real good. They have the person that they wanted. So,
all right. Well, this is just fascinating. Let's bring in retired Navy SEAL officer, former enlisted Marine, along with Scout Sniper as well, Mike Cirelli. Mike, your reaction to what we're hearing? President Trump hedging it a little bit, saying what he's hearing. Nothing. I'm scouring. And by the way, if I have my glasses on, I'm looking down. I'm listening to you. I'm able to multitask here, but I'm also checking to see if we have any official FBI / any sort of agency that has come out and said anything. But yeah, we've got nothing official yet. Right.
It's all still developing.
And once again, I'm not. And I just want to be clear. I'm not doubting necessarily at all what President Trump's saying. But the fact that the way he is saying it, I think we all need to just take a step back. Even he's taking a step back to say, yeah, and then give me details. But we don't have anything official. Mike, go ahead.
So, guys, if the news proves true, that is amazing news. That we've got our guy. You know, if it's true, the father and this minister, a man of faith, which is ironic, given Charlie Kirk was a man of conviction and faith, and the appalling nature of the crime, a father and a minister turned him in. They most likely saw the photos, were appalled by what their son or this young man did, and turned him in. So they are still in the fact-finding phase. They have to interview this individual, and you're right. Let's temper, I hate to say excitement or resolve, but let's find out if indeed it is the person of interest.
Yeah, scouring and just can't. There's nothing. There's not even. I've never seen an incident like this in my entire life where a president goes on a news program.
Yes,
and makes a statement like that, and I'm looking at news, and I just keep refreshing, and I put in suspect in custody, and there's nothing.
Can I just say real quick, Gina? Don't you agree? At this point, it's just kind of a freewheeling conversation. Don't you agree that President Trump has to be right here, right? I mean, when I say has to be right, we got to. I mean, if you're wrong on
guys,
this,
let's step back a little bit. Yes, he is hedging, absolutely, and we want absolutes at this point. But he's also saying the information that he was sharing was literally passed to him as he's walking on the set. So he's probably gotten some sort of confirmation. But again, to be fair and to be legal, he's stepping back a little bit and hedging, saying, this is the information I'm getting. I'm still waiting for more confirmation. That's the implication of what we heard, Mike. But still, this is the information that I'm getting. And I'm sure more information will come out here in short order as this is a developing situation. But Mike, I'm curious, bigger picture, how important is an arrest? How important will it be for our country moving forward to get information about the motivation, about the process, what really happened? Because at this point, we really don't have those details. And it seems to me that those details is what is going to ease fears and ease concerns and take some of the heaviness off of people's hearts.
Well, I think the fact that, one, if we did get him and we got him alive, we're going to get some answers. The driver behind his ideology and his motives to take out such an amazing man, one of the most brilliant minds of our time, a father, a husband, and why he would did this. And then trace his linkage back to, was he motivated by a certain ideological group? Is he a far left extremist, which the probability is extremely high? And then there are real debates to happen of who we hold accountable. And the left got a pass after the failed assassination attempts on Trump, and nothing changed. Guys, for Charlie Kirk, this is a turning point. This is a watershed moment. And the left needs to be held accountable. And this is the peak, or this is the irony. They've called us fascists. They've called us Nazis. Now, what does a true fascist group do? They silence their opposition through murder, not debate. They weaponize fear. And also it is the destruction of the rule of law, which we have seen for the past few years. They are the peak and the height of fascism. And, one of the things I would say is we can't keep these blinders on. We can't continue to look at the world through rose-colored glasses, because if you do that, and you try to push off that you're not at war, you actually take more casualties. This needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed decisively.
I'm sorry, I'm chomping at the bit here because you say the left needs to be held to account, needs to be held accountable. What does that accountability look like in your mind?
Well, I would go after starting with all the groups that are supporting attacks on ICE agents, that are supporting these violent protests. Go after them to the full extent of the law. The thing is the destruction of the rule of law. We need, and the Democrats have played this beautifully by taking district attorney offices with far left Soros-backed district attorneys who come up with these policies of no cash bail. And in the case of the Charlotte killer, 14 prior arrests, which led to the death of a Ukrainian refugee, a young woman. That is unacceptable. If somebody is a repeat violent offender, you lock them up to the furthest extent of the law. I do believe in second chances, but I also have to protect the masses. If somebody is a threat to society, if somebody is spewing ideology backed by violence, we've got to find a way to remove them from society and lock them up. And I know that sounds like extreme language, but how many more Charlie Kirks are we going to suffer? How many more Charlie Kirks are we going to tolerate? Yeah. Guys, I'm angered. I'm devastated for his family. I'm sorrowful, but I know my friends, my crew, mostly veterans that I grew up with and served and fought alongside, are angered by this. This is not the country we fought for. This is not the ideals of the American way.
Yeah. Does it seem to you like they should have this suspect in custody by now? I mean, when you look at all of the different quotients that were present, we've had so many threats. Everybody's been doxxed. Charlie had a target. Everybody has a target. And yet, again, we didn't sweep the roof. We didn't have any cameras, people watching to see if somebody went on a roof just after our president was attemptedly assassinated, almost assassinated not long ago from the exact same situation. It just seems like there's just a lot of things that almost don't add up here. You really can't blame people for looking at what, according to that press conference last night, are bots online making allegations about a bigger picture here. You don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but at the same time, just not a lot of this adds up. And if this turns out where they say this is a lone guy, just one crazy guy, oh, whoops, I just don't know if we're going to buy it again.
It's a good point. And Gina, you brought this up in the previous segment about the security at the event. Let me say this. President Trump had a Secret Service detail. They conducted a sniper sweep poorly. They had an outer cordon. They had a counter sniper at that event in Minnesota. And they still got it wrong. They were able to take out that threat. Charlie Kirk is a private civilian with a private detail. The private detail was most likely working with the Utah Valley University Police Department. I was told that only 6 officers were at the event. So they didn't have counter snipers, which is costly for Charlie to afford. They didn't have people on the roofs. This is a hard problem. But we also look at I've seen a lot of reports about this being a professional sniper. I actually disagree. The neck is what we call a low probability shot, similar to the head, but snipers, traditional, well-trained military or police snipers are trained to go for the head or center mass. So if this was his point of impact, point of aim, but this was the point of impact, that's not a great shot. That said, with a bolt action, and it was a Mauser 30-06 bolt action rifle, a 200-yard shot is not that difficult. So this was most likely an internet shooter that also got their planning and preparation from the internet to do a pre-planned site selection, a pre-planned escape, and the fact that the FBI has them, this is phenomenal because they didn't have the security to initially conduct a massive sweep of the area. This guy got out of the area most likely, but they had 7,000 leads. Going through that catalog of leads, eliminating each one with diligence until they finally got their guy, and hopefully that proves true here in the next few hours.
Mike, we appreciate your perspective. Thanks for joining us this morning. It's obviously a busy morning of news. Let's bring in John Solomon on the phone now as we continue to follow this latest news. President Trump saying that he believes that the suspect in Charlie Kirk's murder is now in custody, or at very least has been identified and will shortly be in custody. John joining us on the phone. John, it's my understanding and our expectation, of course, that there will be a news conference here in short order, potentially as soon as 9 o'clock Eastern time, in which we'll get more information. What are your sources telling you, John?
Well, 7:52 this morning, before President Trump went on Fox News, we confirmed that a person of interest was detained and that they're preparing an arrest warrant. So we've known about this for about 45 minutes. We were monitoring it all through the night. As I said at the end of my show last night, they had identified someone that they were closing in on. They weren't ready yet to announce it, and I think they were trying to buy some time until they could safely apprehend this person. But we were able to confirm this morning around 7:52 a.m. that a person of interest has been detained. He matches the description. There is some biometric and other data that gives them strong reason to believe that this is their man. They're preparing a state arrest warrant. The first charges will most likely be state charges. The original plan was to do a news conference at 9 Utah time, 11 Eastern time. That might be moved up now that President Trump has put this out into the public realm. But it is true. These guys worked all yesterday, all last night. They were closing in. They knew what they were looking for. They knew without the name of the person where they thought this person was headed, and they were able to ultimately apprehend him. I don't get a sense that he's been very cooperative in interrogation yet. Not surprising. But I think you will see a lot unfold and what this person's connections are, why they thought he's the person, what evidence they found with him, and what evidence led them to him. And I think that is a major breakthrough. This is the way the FBI normally solves cases. It's that constant evidence trail, and you just add it up until you get it. And right now they feel like they may have their man. So we'll keep you up to date on it. We've been following this all through the night.
John, you say may have their man. So what's the what's happening here exactly according to your sources? Like we hear hedging from President Trump makes sense. You say may. Why the
President Trump's pretty firm. He said he's pretty certain that they got their guy. My are too. The key is you have to meet a threshold in court, right? And in court, you got to go in Utah. You have to file an arrest warrant in order to say it's your man. And so they're filling that out, making sure a judge will approve it. It's just part of the judicial process. But the work on this case has been really, really solid, good, just evidentiary trail stuff. And I think when people see the explanations today, they'll understand that video footage last night and why the gentleman was limping going in, but not limping going out, why he was able to run, why he dumped the gun, why he had a screwdriver, because he was assembling and disassembling the gun. There'll be a lot of information that will put what we visually have seen with our eyes into a context that we can understand why they think this is the man. Yep.
Do you have any information from your sources about the father and minister being involved here that President Trump had mentioned?
I don't. I know there were several. Cooperating witnesses that made this arrest possible. I don't know enough to say something public. I know some things a little bit, but not enough to report on yet public. I've always wanted to be careful and safe and not get ahead of the facts. But there were cooperating witnesses throughout this that made this arrest very possible.
John, we heard the news about. John, we heard the news about the things that were written on. It was either the gun or on the bullet. What more do we know about that? There is some evidence on the inscriptions. I'm told that the original ATF document may have been a little bit more assertive than the actual evidence. Is that some of these inscriptions are a little bit more vague as to what they are. But I do believe that at the end of the day, there'll be some evidence recovered at the scene that has some hint of motive, or certainly what the killer wanted us to believe the motive was. Now, sometimes the killer tries to throw people off the scent, right? So they make you think this type of ideology is something else because they want to have time to escape. So we don't know yet. What I was told is that there are some inscriptions on there. They were originally described in an ATF document as transgenderism and fascism. I'm told that it may be a little more vague when people see the words, but that will be important evidence. What this social media footprint of this person is, what was on his computer, his phone, his laptop, all of that will be important evidence to understanding what motivated a person to take such a heinous action as he did.
John, in my lead in to you, I teased that there is expected to be a news conference this morning. It could happen as soon as 9 o'clock. I think you mentioned it. Yes, it could happen again as soon as 9 o'clock. That's what we're expecting, potentially a little bit later. But the bigger point here, how forthcoming are you expecting FBI officials and local investigators to be? How much information will they have to share at this point, given that this arrest, this detainment just happened?
Listen, they've had a lot of information starting around 6 o'clock last night when things really started to come together. As I said at the end of my show last night, they were really zeroing in. They've had about 12 hours to process the information. They have tremendous forensics out of the FBI lab in Quantico. They have tremendous digital footprinting that they've done. They have a lot of things. I think they'll tell enough of the story for the American public to rest assured that they've got their guy and that there's no longer a threat and the general narrative. And then they'll save some things until they button up their evidence. This has been a very transparent investigation. I know it doesn't feel that way when it's only 36 hours out, but every time they detain someone, they immediately acknowledge it. And when they said that, hey, they've ruled that person out, they immediately acknowledge it. That's unusual in law enforcement, but what it does in the fog of war is it allows the defendant to know, hey, they don't got their guy. I need to be on the lam, and sometimes that forces action. They were very transparent with the release of the images because they believed that would help someone come forward, and I think that was probably an important development in the case. So there'll be some transparency, how much they go into, and I think they'll be careful on the motive, unless he's made some spontaneous admissions, or if he's told the minister, or if he's told a relative why he did it. They'll be a little more circumspect on that, but I think they're going to try. What I was told this morning, they're going to try to convince the public that there's no longer a threat here, that they do have the person that pulled the trigger. And I think we'll see how that goes.
I just wanted to kind of give a quick update. We heard President Trump talk about this on Fox and Friends. Then we have the one and only John Solomon, who always is working the case and has great sources and confirming a lot of this. I am now getting a text confirming as well that a suspect is in custody. I cannot give you the attribution based on my relationship with this person, but I'll just simply say that this is someone that we all can highly trust, that a suspect is indeed in custody. So I just
there's
wanted
no
to
doubt
pass
they
that
have their
along.
custody. There's no doubt they have the guy.
Yep.
Or the guy they believe it is. Listen, you always got to be open as a journalist to see what the evidence is. But they were zeroing in on him starting around dinner time last night, East Coast time. They worked all through the night. There was a great alliance between the federal, state, and local authorities, and I think when they lay this evidence out, there'll be a degree of confidence about why they think they have this person and where the case goes next. And we heard from the governor last night, they are seeking the death penalty here.
Good.
John Solomon, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your reporting and your updates on this particular story. Obviously, it is the big story of the day at this point, and we'll continue to cover it. In fact, for more right now, let's bring in former Navy SEAL and FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan, it's always good to see you. What do you make of this new information, this breaking information we've been sharing?
Well, if President Trump says it, then I have a feeling he's pretty confident, and he's a good source to have, that they have caught a person of interest that is most likely the person that they were looking for. What I don't want to see, though, is that they do what they did in Boston when they caught the second Sarnoff brother, and they just started celebrating and say, we got the guy, we got him. I don't want to see that, because I want the investigation to play out so that we can know if there was anybody else involved, because this guy may have been the shooter. There could have been other shooters that were in wait. There could have been a whole cell of people that were involved in the planning. I want to see that investigation carried out before they say it's over.
Jonathan, what is the situation with the school right now? Are they still on lockdown? Have students gone home? I haven't heard anything about that. And the other thing I wonder if you know anything about is I've had a lot of trouble finding out, and I wanted to ask John this, but we didn't get to it, and you may not know, is where were Erica and her children at the time of this? Were they back home in Arizona, or were they in the stadium at the time?
I think they were in Arizona at the time. I don't know for sure, but I don't think that they were there. I think that, so I can't speculate on that. But as far as the school goes, the school should be on lockdown until they find this individual, because I believe that that individual was a part of the school. I think that for the fact that he was able to get there to that venue and get on that roof in the amount of time that he did and take an effective shot and get out of there tells me that he was familiar with the school. And I think if that's the case, he's either a student or he works there. And so the school has to be thinking that this individual could be secreting themselves back into the school. So I think that school, until this is over with, that things should be shut down until they know that this shooter and anybody involved with them is captured.
David, looks like you're still working your sources, so I'll take the next question if it's okay with you, so you can continue to work your sources and see if we can get more information. Jonathan, you said something that I found very interesting, that the investigation should continue. We shouldn't be too jubilant until we've got all of the information. I think that is critical. How much information do you think the feds have at this point, and where do they stand? Give me a percentage in terms of really having fully completed this investigation. Are we at 60%, 70% with the arrest? Where do you think the feds may stand?
Well, I can't give you a percentage, but what I can tell you is that when they released those pictures and that video, that was a game changer. Law enforcement needs to learn how to do that quicker, because we live in an information world now. And as technology advances, law enforcement has to learn how to advance. That's the problem. They get stuck in that's not the way we do it type of mentality. And that has to change. So when they put that information out, you see how quickly this changes, because if he's familiar with that area and the area is familiar with him, using the public as a force multiplier has to be something that law enforcement is doing faster. That's how they got Luigi Mangione. That's how they're probably going to get this guy. So what I can tell you is that as soon as he was, the pictures were shown, it went exponentially faster, and they got over 7,000 tips. And as those come in, they have to catalog them, and then they have to clear them. And so that's why we got to where we are now.
Jonathan,
You know,
talk
that's a
to
good
us.
point.
Go ahead, David.
Go ahead. Well, I was
just
that's a good point, because I just want to say we're 130 tips at 3 p.m. yesterday, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 7,000 last night, to your point. Real quick on the timing of all of this, John Solomon had said that this was going on, that they were basically in the process of apprehending him around dinner time, or a lot of stuff was going on around, quote, dinner time. And yet the press conference happened at last night with the FBI around, let's see, it was about 10 p.m. Eastern time after that. So not to get into the granular detail, but it's interesting that like they knew stuff was going on, but they had a press conference saying they didn't have anybody in custody and they wanted the public's help, even though something seemed to be going on before that. Am I reading that right, or am I getting all that wrong?
Were they playing possum?
No, I don't think that they were playing possum. I think what you saw is that they when it comes to closing in on a criminal that they're tracking, they can give evidence out like this so that the public is more involved, but they can't give away everything they know, because then that individual would move further away or would flee. So that's why we have these press conferences, and it's a tiptoe. And people were being critical because they did give a lot of information, but I think what they did give was vital, and it was vital enough where if they thought they knew who the person was, that it wouldn't cause them to flee completely. But anytime they give this information out, if they have an idea who the person is and they put this out there, they're risking this person then fleeing if they didn't have eyes on them. So it was a balancing act when that press conference occurred.
So, Jonathan, I just have to ask, as I see this kid walking into this with a backpack, climbing up on the roof. I mean, you can go to a Charlie Kirk speaking event with a backpack, and we now know that, I guess, at least it sounds like, as factors are adding up, that he had the gun in there and a screwdriver to assemble the gun. At least that's what it seemed like John Solomon was insinuating. And so this is just common practice with security?
Well, unfortunately, Dr. Gina, as somebody who does threat assessments all over the world, that's what my company does. Yeah. I did over 1,000 last year around the world. We go in, we look at the facility from the attacker's point of view, and then we coordinate with the venue security, which in this case would have been the college police and the local authorities, if they're even around. And so if this was my venue, and I was the security for Charlie, I would have insisted, because I would have looked at it and said, this is where the attack could happen. Let's lock down that area, the high ground, and let's make sure that we have at least 2 law enforcement over there from each corner. There were 6 cops there from that university. From my vantage point, they were all next to the stage, and that's typical. So the problem is threat assessments either aren't done or they're not taken seriously, and then these areas are left open for an avenue of approach. And as we saw this past week, somebody always wins the lottery. And in this case, this guy played the same cards as the shooter in Pennsylvania and the shooter in Florida, except this time he was able to kill his target.
Jonathan, about 15, 30 seconds or so. We're expecting a news conference to happen here within the next 15 minutes or so from the FBI with local officials. What are you expecting to hear? And more importantly, based on your FBI special agent training, what questions do you still have that need to be answered today?
My question is, how did he get on the roof? Because if it was wide open, then that is on the shoulders of that university for allowing the roof to be open. But if he had some way to access this roof, then that means he knows somebody at the university or he works there. How did he get access to that roof? I want to know who asked that question. Not that I think that would have been a trigger, but I want to know those particulars. Who were the people in the audience that were cheering and that were raising a ruckus? Now, we know weirdos are going to show up to these events. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. But I primarily want to know where that guy was before the event, who he was talking to, and how did he access that roof. I think that's going to be something that allows me to say, okay, perhaps he did it on his own and the university was just incompetent and left the roof unlocked. But that is a big question for me.
All All right. I mean, there are lots of unanswered questions, and David's been working his sources. We've all been trying to cover this. Again, you see at the bottom of your box, folks, that is the news conference that we're expecting to start here in the next 9 minutes or so. About 9 o'clock Eastern time is when we're hearing
Terrence,
that it's going to start. Go ahead, David. You're saying?
Well, John Solomon had said that it was 9 a.m. Utah time. I'm trying to confirm that, so that'd be 11 a.m. Eastern. Now, having said that, maybe they're moving it up, or maybe it is 9 a.m. Eastern. But John Solomon had said that it was 9 a.m. Utah time. But once again, John did say that that definitely could be earlier. But so I don't think we really know exactly when that press conference is.
And can I say one other thing before I drop off?
Go ahead.
I just want to say that, I know you all knew Charlie. I met him several times, did some things for him. He was an amazing guy. I'm not worried about where he is now. That gives me great solace in knowing that he's with his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But these things do not have to happen. Charlie did not have to die. This nation has to stop living in smoke and mirrors. Crisis management, security is a part of that, has to become something that we understand as a nation. I understand it as an expert and as an attacker. So why don't we start incorporating serious business? This is serious. Charlie Kirk was murdered. President Trump was shot and somebody was killed at a venue. We have to start taking this seriously and realizing that it's serious business and it's not rocket science. If that guy can get on the roof, somebody can stop him from getting on the roof, and this has to change.
All right. Absolutely. So glad you said that. Jonathan Gilliam, thanks for sticking around. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Let's bring in Congressman Burgess Owens, a friend of this show, and actually in Utah's 4th District, where this shooting happened. Congressman, thanks for being with us. My goodness, what a heavy and sad and disturbing and honestly angry week. So we want to get your reaction to the events of this week, but before we do that, kind of give us the latest on what you're hearing. I'm seeing here that it looks like it might be it looks like it's going to be a 9:30 a.m. Eastern press conference in Utah. So what are you hearing? What do you know? Good morning, sir.
I'm thinking what everyone else is hearing today, that they've found the person, the suspect that they have in custody. And let me just say this, we've all had an opportunity to in some way interact with Charlie. He was, it's hard to believe he was only 31 years old. And yet he lived his life as we all would love to do as Christians, always talking about who we are, why we're there. And what he did more than anything else, we talk about the idea of ignorant and free can never be. He was the example of how you fight that. Not just talking, having conversations, being kind, having a temperance where people can see you having these very deep conversations, and yet being able to break through, because when we talk, that's what happens. That's the power of we the people. When we talk, we do good things. And here we have what I consider just pure evil that has been rolling across our country for way too long. And I think this is a wake up. I have no idea. I have no doubt. This is a wake up call, not only for many of us older who've been through the process, but young people who are beginning to get engaged, begin to ask those questions. And they too are realizing this is not America. This is not what Charlie talked about the vision of our country is. And so as tragic as this is, and obviously we know Heavenly Father has a perfect plan, and we never know how that plan rolls out in the long term. But in this case here, we're going to have, I think, a sea change in terms of our culture, our country, our culture, and our young people, and how they're going to be more engaged as we move forward, which we need at this particular time.
Congressman, you must be pretty familiar.
Go ahead, Dr.
with
Gina. I apologize.
Thank you. No worries. It's a crazy day here in the studio. Congressman, you must be pretty familiar with this university, their system. You're also closer on the ground. You might be hearing more just from people who are on the ground than we are. I just wondered if you could give us anything on the university, their reaction. Are they still locked down? Why wasn't this roof secured? Anything you've heard there on the ground about how this happened that isn't being reported out here in the news?
Yes, I'm very familiar with the university. Two of my girls graduated from there. It's one of the largest ones here in Utah. You have to understand the Utah culture. This is something we don't ever consider could happen. You have, 3,000 young people out to enjoy themselves, to have this conversation. And I'll actually be going to the university later on today for an event that I have been planning on getting done. I think it's something that, again, we'll have to see what the security looked like. But it's surprising because Utah, this is not what happens here. We're shocked by the fact that this kind of evil can be seen and done in this area. So we're doing the same. I'm doing the same as everyone else, just trying to figure out and understand what the latest is. I know, again, as I mentioned, they have a suspect, which I'm not surprised. And we'll just have to see how that all falls out. But it's right next to my district. I go there quite often. Remarkable university, great leadership. Again, it's the values that we have here in Utah are seen there at UVU. So I'm just so sad that of course, sad about the entire process, but sad that the university's in spotlight like this also.
Congressman, just want to reset the show really quickly. As we've been saying, we're expecting a news conference to happen here in short order as soon as 9 o'clock. David's saying that it could be around closer to 9:30 Eastern time. That would be about 7 or 7:30 your time there. In fact, we had a video up earlier, and guys, if we can put that video back up of the podium that was set up as reporters are now waiting to get more information. All of this coming after President Trump earlier this morning announced that a suspect was in custody. He was somewhat hedging. But let's hear from the president himself, and then we'll talk on the other side of this. This is what the president had to say on Fox and Friends about 45 minutes ago.
Any updates on the suspect?
Yeah. Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued, and we all don't get sued, and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant that was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, it's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But yeah, I think we're in great shape. The father went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And they brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you, based on what I'm hearing, they'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in. As I'm walking in, they said, looking real good. They have the person that they wanted. So.
Again, folks, we want to welcome you back to American Sunrise. Terrence Bates, along with David Brody, Dr. Gina, Congressman Burgess Owens joining us again for the show as well. Congressman, you just heard the president's statement there a little while ago. Again, a news conference expected to happen there in your state of Utah at any moment now. We'll take you there live once that happens. Talk about the reaction in your community, because this has got to be a stain. It's got to be hurtful in your community. And unfortunately, people are now going to know your community there for this, not for the other great things that are likely happening.
No, you're correct, and it really is unfortunate with that regard. In that regard, but let me just, I guess, in a sense, say this: hate, evil is everywhere. And we have a community here that we've always considered ourselves very safe. Some people come here, they enjoy it, they want to come back because they feel that way. But this is something that we have to recognize. We are being an attack. We have been for quite a while. For those who hate our society, hate our culture, and Charlie stood for what the right way to go about changing minds: patience, temperance, love. Confidence, intelligence, all the things that's really made our country the remarkable country it is. It's amazing. It's on the setting of a college campus that's what they're teaching there. They're teaching people how to have these conversations. They want people to have different thoughts, but yet come in with a respectful way, talk about things. So we're going to get this back, because this is I think a spotlight of the way our country can go, which is go back to basics, go back to what's made our country the country it is having these conversations, and also understanding that we are truly in an era in which evil is after us. And you take someone like Charlie, who he doesn't have enemies. Anybody knows him, he doesn't have enemies. He didn't have enemies because he's that kind of person that is confident enough about himself. He can listen and talk to anyone and still walk away and say, you know what, let's just respectfully agree to disagree. That is the way America works, and that's what's happening. That should be on our college campuses. UVU is one of those campuses that teaches that and helps young people to understand that. So we're going to get back to that, and I think this is again a flashpoint to understand we have to dig in, guys. Education we have to focus on and get it done right because we've been on the wrong side of this for way too long, and the result of that is the kind of evil we just saw a couple days ago when it's a very vulnerable, very open, very just a person just talking is murdered in front of thousands of people. This is not the way America should be, and we all understand that. So we're going to go in a different direction for sure.
I want to talk about the spiritual aspect of this for a moment because you talked about evil, and of course we know there's a spiritual warfare going on, but we always say spiritual warfare, and we don't really maybe explain it as well as we should. And for those that are not believers, they don't understand that realm. But there is a spiritual realm. And I'm getting to my question, which is simply this. I'm curious about where you think this emotion comes from, of what we've seen with tens of millions of Americans this week. Why is this hit a nerve? And yes, for us here at RAV, we knew him. That's a nerve, right? Was 31. That's a nerve. He was being a voice for so many tens of millions of people, that's a nerve. But spiritually, this feels to me, Congressman, different. In other words, there's something you can't quite place your finger on, and I wonder if it has to do with this realm of evil versus good, and when evil won for that split second, by the way, evil did not win, but for that split second this week, it brought people into something they couldn't verbalize, but they were feeling, and it was raw, and it was emotional. And I'm curious to get your take on that.
Well, what we're realizing, and this has been a conversation since President Trump came in, and we're beginning to see changes across the country, but we've been in spiritual warfare for quite a while. It's called Marxism. It's an ideology that hates everything we stand for. It hates God. It hates family. It hates business ownership. It hates property. All those things that has made our country the remarkable country it is. And what Charlie was able to do was to articulate in a very calm and intelligent way, and just to be engaged. And all these young people who've never heard these truths before begin to resonate. They begin to be drawn to it. That is the greatest threat to evil. This country's been based on this concept of God. Of becoming a more perfect union, of looking at each other inside out, not outside in. That is who we are. And we always drift in that direction. And we lost our pathway, not understanding that we are under attack. These Marxists have been at us for a long time. They go to our most vulnerable in these universities where we don't have protection. We have professors that come through and push these people out, hating our nation. We're back now. And President Trump was really the linchpin in terms of our country saying, okay, enough of this. We the people now want order. We want to have our faith. We want to have whatever that faith might be. We want to be in a position to dream and grow and have a legacy of our kids. That is what happened in November. Charlie happened to be one of those factors that really made it happen by getting young people engaged. People that in the past have been told they don't need to be involved with politics. Just go out there and have fun and do whatever you want to do and don't think there's a God. Well, Charlie's message was quite different. And now we have young people that are patriotic. They're loving our country. Young men that understand what it is to respect others, to respect women, to respect authority. All those things that make our country what it is, we're finally coming back. And we're going to look back and realize that he was, again, the major impactor in terms of this process. And his life is going to be, again, something that we will be talking about for a long, long time. Let me just say this one thing. I grew up during the time of Rush Limbaugh. When I made my transition to become a Republican, it was because I listened to Rush Limbaugh every single day. And I would set my schedule up so I could hear him. That has now turned into me being a solid conservative, with my family being that kind of conservative family, and me representing a very conservative state. Well, that's what Charlie's impact is going to be, multiple. because he spent so much time with so many thousands of young people that listened and had engagement with him. And just imagine as they grow up now, they go out and get married like he asked them to go out and have a family, grow their businesses, get into the middle class, and more importantly, have the faith, have the spiritual connection to want to give back. Make that part of your life. That's who Charlie was. And he didn't do it just for individuals. He did it in person with kids across this country. And those kids are going to grow up and understand what he stood for and want to emulate that. And that's what's going to turn our country in a way that that we're going to be very proud as the next generations kind of come through and see the impact that he's had because of his life.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Congressman. We've talked about the spiritual impact of Charlie Kirk's life. We've talked about the media impact that this assassination will have. We've talked about the political. I want to ask you about the practical, because at some point we're going to have to talk about this. I know, as somebody that goes and does speeches for, Christian women's organizations, my books, whatever it is, like all of us sitting here do, Congressman, you're no stranger to going and addressing crowds. I know people are canceling a lot of events right now, which is exactly what you don't want, because this is terrorism, right? This is exactly what the left wants. But I do know that there are some friends of mine who have canceled their book tours right now, for example. What are you going to do? What is the word among other Congress people? How are we going to handle this going forward? Because we can't all afford to have glass boxes around us and counter shooters, right? Counter sharpshooters up on roofs. What does this mean for rallies, for just Congress people to go speak to their districts?
Well, for those who have that faith, who have understanding of why we're here, it's not an accident we're all here, guys, together at this particular time. It's for a purpose. I'm sorry. And I think now is our time to lean in. This is the time that we're here for a purpose. It's not an accident, again, as I mentioned before, the Heavenly Father has put us here at this time. And these are things we have to go through. When it comes down to, do we have courage or do we have fear? If you have the faith that this is a country that's built on principles, there's a God that loves us, that takes care of us, and guides our direction, and it's a perfect plan for all of us. So the question is, do we have that faith like Charlie did? Now, of course, understand that his faith led him to that particular point of courage, and he's paid the price for it. But it's also been an example for many of us that price is worth it if you're making the difference in our country. We're fighting for the heart and soul of our nation right now. These are very, very special times. We've seen a president who stood up and after being attacked said, fight, fight, fight. Well, that's what Americans do. It's within our DNA. We are not those who cower. We're the ones that see. Now, first of all, we dream big, and then we kind of get into the freedom bubble. Sometimes we don't realize we're under attack. But once we do, we don't cower. We fight. We run toward the issues that we need to. So I think we're going to find even a stronger a will within Congress. You're going to start seeing things that now that we're coming together and realize that this is important. Charlie's kind of been a linchpin in many, many different ways for many of us. So I feel more hopeful that we are going to get things done quicker now because the American people realize, and by the way, let's say this, there's always going to be a fringe. There's always going to be a hateful group of godless people that want to destroy everything. But most of America is not that way. We have very good people on both sides. And when I say both, Democratic people are really good folks. They just have been listening to the hard left and believing them. This is a point in which they realize they're going to sit back and say, wait a minute. How can this happen? I don't agree with Charlie, but how can a man, 31 years old, sitting talk with kids, how can this happen? And they're going to ask those same questions that we are saying, this has gone too far. Enough is enough. We need to stop this. And this is going to be those moments that I think we begin to have these conversations as a people that we've needed to have for so long. So just know, moving forward, I feel more hope for our nation, more excited about the conversations we're going to have, the more education we're going to start having on our college campuses now, because we're done. We're done with cancellation. We're done with intimidation. We're done with all that stuff that the hard left has been putting on us for decades. So this is a point in which we're going to look back and realize, because of Charlie's life, because of his message, because of his way, we're going to go in a different direction, and it's going to change our country for the good.
Congressman, I'd
And
be
we-
remiss if we didn't ask you real quick. You were emotional there in your answer at the beginning. Where did that emotion come from? What's going on? Tell us.
I think a lot of it is, first of all, the moment we have now and see such a good person, something like this happening, but also recognize that the blessing that we have to be part of this solution at this time. I think Americans, anybody who's watching this, just know it's not an accident you're sitting here, you're hearing these conversations, that we have these emotions that we're feeling now, because we're going to bring our country back. So know that this is a special window. And it began when we brought President Trump in and he put his team around him. And all of us now have been prepared through all these years to do what we're doing right now. It's not an accident. We're here to save our nation. So just lean into that, know that, and then do your very best to bring your talents out. Don't let fear drive us. That's what the left wants. That's what the hard left wants, godless. Let's take out our faith and lean in hard and realize Heavenly Father is going to be there with us and help us, allow us to take our talents to make sure those who come behind us dream bigger than we've ever thought can happen, and our country comes back the way it should be.
Congressman, if I can, just very quickly, David, if you don't mind, because I think it's important to bring up as well. After Charlie's shooting the other day, there was a moment of silence. Speaker Johnson tried to have a moment of silence there in the House chamber. Some of your Democrat colleagues booed and yelled and showed in, I think, most reasonable people's minds a lack of decorum. Speak to that. Can you speak to the climate in this country that's being perpetuated even on the left, this climate of division, this climate that seems to lack compassion even for something basic as the murder of a man?
You just used the right word, compassion. I say empathy. Let me tell you about our country. I believe so strongly in. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle we're sitting on. We have a country that believes in empathy. We have that heart. That's why we serve the way we do. That's why we have charities that we lean in on. But at the same time, you're also seeing the heartlessness of a ideology that does not believe in a God, that hates, that celebrates death and celebrates hopelessness. Understand, we've seen this for a long, long time. Go to any city where people are hopeless, that are ignorant, and can't read and write, can't get a job, and you have people celebrating that by continue to push that on. We're at a point now where good people are seeing this and realize there's something wrong when that kind of stuff can happen in Congress. When something wrong when people go online and celebrate a young man, 31 years old, leaving 2 kids behind and a wife. That's not who we are. So the empathy of our nation is what's going to kind of shine at this point. We're going to start having conversations now that we have not in the past, because it's going to be a softening of for those who have in the past who kind of lean in that direction, realizing that's not who we are, that's not who I am. And I'll say this too, even on the right, we're angry, we're upset, we're tired of seeing this type of anger and hatred. But at the same time, we do still have the ability to reach out and have these conversations. We're going to get to the point again where we're talking more than ever before. And the way we have to make the changes on these college campuses, the left understood decades ago, if you want to change a culture, go after the most vulnerable. Go at your K through 12, college, and we're going to change that. We're going to give our kids more hope, more education about history and who we are. Our Christian foundation allows us to have the freedoms we have for all religions. This is where we're going to go now, and it is going to be a demand for it because of what's happened to Charlie and people realizing what a good man he was. He didn't deserve this. This is not who our country is. And because of that, it's going to be a linchpin for us, for sure.
No doubt about that. Congressman Owens, thanks for spending the extended time with us this morning. We appreciate you so much and everything you've said.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All the best.
God bless you.
You bet. We're standing by for a press conference, an FBI press conference, detailing that a suspect has been caught in the Charlie Kirk assassination. More coverage, breaking news coverage, after the break.